Times were tough at the buzzword factory. They had coined it in the early 90s with Internet www. Then again in the mid-90s with .com. Followed in the late 90s with e-tailing and e-business. But with the business and investor disillusionment that happened when the century turned, times were tough. Next to the buzzword factory was the Watershed, where, after more than a decade, alarm bells were ringing, signalling a watershed had been reached. The tortoise, on his way to the watershed, looked down and saw a gardener snake. He traced its pattern, up and down. Then, curving slightly upwards in 2004 with the emergence of true e-business. Then, optimized e-business. Then, by 2007, seeing e-business totally subsumed into corporate DNA. He smiled. He smiled knowing that XML was ingrained into his own very DNA, and that he'd arrived at the watershed way ahead of the field. This is what else he knew. Firstly, that between 2007 and 2012, the buzzword factory will replace ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, with ERM, Enterprise Resource Management, and that one system would not only control all, but would be all. He also knew that by 2015, enterprises would need to handle 30 times more data than in 2005. A compound annual growth rate of 40%. He smiled. He knew that in just 2 years up to 2006, he had seen 600 enhancements poured into his ERP software. All of it effortlessly passed into his users' systems. He knew he could cope with any increase in data needs. The third thing the tortoise knew was that the buzzword factory's latest offering, SOA, Service-Oriented Architecture, had been an integral part of his system offering for years. Likewise, the Business Process Platform. Likewise, Event-Driven Architecture, EDA. So what, he thought. This is for the others to play catch-up with. The fourth and last thing he knew was something he'd heard at the buzzword factory. Virtualization will become the key enabling tool, they said. Meaning, putting in technology that masks the software to the software user. But he'd been doing that for years. To users, it had sometimes been disguised as a Microsoft offering. In other words, not scary. But in most cases, it had been invisible. So, as the tortoise eventually passed the watershed, he knew that competitors and the marketplace as a gigantic whole were just about to reach it. In 2006, by which time he'd just about made it to 2012. SYSPRO, simplifying your success.